Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Walterdoom, and I am back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, where we talk about any and everything that's related to the genre. We got a lot of things to talk about today, you guys. An action-packed show for y'all. Oh yeah. First off, we're gonna talk about the I Like Scary Movies exhibit. I have been to it. I went to the encore presentation, as I think they probably would like to call it, and I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts and opinions about that, so you guys should really be geared up to hear what happened if you haven't been to it yet. Also, I am going to talk about my 31 days of horror. I spent 31 days of the October month trying to watch Halloween movies, or scary movies I should say, throughout the whole month of October, and I am going to tell you guys about my experience and how that happened and what went down. Next up, oh yeah, give him a laugh, Chucky, because we haven't heard from you in a while.
What are you, fucking nuts?
Alright. But yeah, next up, we are going to talk about the Into the Dark series. I have like 3 movies I gotta talk about. Oh man, messing up big time. But yeah, I am going to talk about Pure, the last installment from last season's Into the Dark series. Then I'm going to talk about Uncanny Annie and Pilgrim and how those rank out with each other, since it's a new season of the Into the Dark series. Oh yeah, you guys. So what I need you guys to do... Oh, wait. I am going too far ahead right now. We got the meme of the week and the must-watch movie of the week that I got for you guys. And I'm also going to give you plans about what I'm planning on doing for this month of November, which is No Nut November or No Shave November, whatever November bullshit that you guys are celebrating right now. But yeah, I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing this month of November as far as a theme of movie watching, because I am having an actual theme of what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm gonna let you guys know in that outro. But either way, sit back, relax, cue the applause, and enjoy the show. Also, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit that post notification bell. Oh my god, those are so lame to me. But anyway, moving forward, as you guys know, I am back in full effect. I've been gone for a minute. Yeah, I mean, no real excuse except for living life, like I mentioned before, day jobs. I mean, that's the only thing about having a day job and a hobby sometimes. Sometimes you want to spend time doing your hobby, but you kind of get swamped some days. And I know I've been kind of swamped with a lot of things going on in my life, especially this past October month. As you guys know, October is Halloween. Yeah, thank you for the Chucky laugh. But yeah, this past month was Halloween. I hope you guys found a lot of interesting things to do. I would like to hear what you guys have done during this October month. Well, this past October month, I should say. If you guys are listening to this podcast, I know 2 of you are, but that's okay. I love every one of you that listens, But yeah, if you guys did anything very interesting, just tell me about it. I would like to know what you did in the comments section, Yeah, for me, I mean, I did a couple of things. I went to a Halloween party with one of my friends, and it was pretty lit. I mean, I gotta say, I was somewhat in costume, but not really. As much as I would have liked to been in the Art the Clown costume, as I was kind of clamoring about or kind of trying to promote, but didn't really happen. Wasn't there, Chief. And I mean, I guess I take it to poor planning and what have you. I mean, life does get in the way for some of us, but yeah, I went to a Halloween party, and this was probably maybe a couple of weeks before Halloween actually started. But went to a Halloween party, and I felt like I was the only one not really in costume. It felt like everyone else was in costume but me. Isn't that crazy, Chucky?
What are you, fucking nuts?
I know. It was nuts. But yeah, I was somewhat in costume. I mean, I took a bunch of old clothes. Well, yeah, I gotta say it was old clothes and kind of like did something with it. So I guess in a way I was looking like a grunge kid from the 90s and what have you. But at the same time, it still looked like I didn't really dress up for Halloween. But I mean, it's definitely much different from what I usually wear on my normal days. But I don't know, maybe next year. Next year will be pretty much different. But not only did I do that, I also went to the I Like Scary Movies experience. Yeah. Me and my friend that I went with last time, I gotta say, was a little bit different than the first time I went. And the reason why I gotta say it was a lot different from the first time I went is not just dealing with the change of locations and what have you, but more of what they did with the exhibit. And what they did with the exhibit was a lot more different than what they did with the first one. And the only reason why I say that is because I felt like a lot of things was kind of minimized. Okay, so like the first time I went, I felt like they went all out in that little small space that they had. I mean, they really went all out. But this time around, I felt like it was a lot more different. Really different. I mean, there were some parts of the exhibit I liked. Some parts I just didn't like. And as you guys know, if you guys haven't been keeping up with this exhibit, is that this year they added Friday the 13th and they got rid of Lost Boys, which I actually finally started watching. Well, I actually watched. Not started watching like it's a TV show, but I actually watched it because I got it on DVD. If you guys are paying attention to my Bargain Big collection videos. But yeah, it was a lot more different. They kind of minimized a lot of things. They also added a couple of things to certain parts of the exhibit. For example, with the It exhibit, well, the It area, I don't know what I want to call it, the area for It. They kind of added like a big couch to it, which is a lot different from what they had the exhibit before, because I don't remember there being a couch there, or at least a big chair. Yeah, so they added a big chair to the It exhibit, but the thing that they did, which was cool, they kind of cut out, was they took away the Pennywise heads. So in the first exhibit, they had like an area where you could stick your head in Pennywise's mouth, kind of. And they had like a whole little, I guess, a column, or I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a little mountain that looked very paper mache, but it's not really paper mache. But either way, they had like a mountain of like newspapers, toys, like teddy bears and stuff like that were all related to the film. And what they had in that little like mountain of junk were like Pennywise heads, and they had an opening where you could appear either inside of Pennywise's mouth, or you could stick your head in Pennywise's mouth because the hole was large enough for you to stick your head inside. I noticed well, I'm still jumping ahead. They had about, I want to say 4 different heads that you could stick your head in or out of. And because the little area was big enough to kind of like put like a whole bunch of people in there, it was dope. It was really dope because you had to really like go around the whole display to really see and capture everything that's on that display. I mean, it really makes for like a really cool little scavenger hunt to kind of look and see like what is inside this display and what they have. I mean, it was definitely a masterpiece. But this time, instead of having 4 different holes, they only had one. And they had just a smaller display of Pennywise kind of throwing up the display that they had in the other exhibit. Well, the first exhibit, I should say. So that one was kind of disappointing. Also with Beetlejuice, they had like a pool that was like a styrofoam pool or whatever. And you could actually take pictures of yourself diving in it in the first exhibit. They took that out in the second one. And I actually asked about that. And because that was really something I noticed right away. So I asked like, hey, what happened to it? The person from the exhibit told me that a lot of people were losing their phones, their keys in there. So it was just a big mess of responsibility. But at the same time, I mean, I just feel like, are people that stupid? I really do wonder. I mean, after he told me about that, I was under the impression of like, are people really that stupid? Why would you dive in there with your phone, your keys, everything, you know? Because I'm pretty sure if you're someone going to this exhibit, you're at least with a group of people. I did not notice anybody going by themselves. I know me, I like to go to exhibits by myself. But this is one exhibit where I was actually able to find somebody to go with because it was so interactive and you could take pictures and what have you. So yeah, I was really disappointed that they really got rid of the styrofoam pool. They did change up like a few things, like just a couple of things around and what have you. Like The Shining and how they had everything displayed. But yeah, I would have to say the changes were okay, but there are some disappointments. So kind of jumping too far ahead, I gotta say one thing as we're coming to this whole jumping ahead thing. I was really disappointed from Friday the 13th. No lie. The one thing that I really wanted to see at this exhibit turned out to be the most disappointing thing at the exhibit. I really don't get why. I mean, well, actually, I get why I was disappointed, but I mean, I don't get why they made such a disappointing display. Now, I mean, not to say that I was disappointed in how it looked. The way it looked was fine. It was really nice the way it looked. But for the simple fact that it was just one room, it was very disappointing because I was hoping that they would have a little bit more, considering that it was Friday the 13th. And there's about 12 films to that franchise. So I would think they would have like a little bit more going on for this franchise than anything else. Now, still going back to like the other rooms, I still like The Shining. I mean, even the way they displayed the whole red rum lettering, it was still good. It was still laid out nice. Even though they made it a bit smaller, because it definitely was smaller than the first exhibit. I feel like the first exhibit had a little bit more rooms than this one for The Shining. Yeah, it was still definitely a good room. Even though it was smaller, I still liked the It room. I was kind of disappointed from some things from them taking it out, but I still like the room. Beetlejuice is still cool, even though they limited it to one room also. And I don't know, I mean, it was still a good room. I still liked it for what it was. I mean, there was a couple of memories that me and my friend made in there, especially that we won't forget. But other than that, I mean, I I kind of still hated the Friday the 13th room. I'm not Friday, what Friday? I still hated the Friday the 13th room, but I'm still disappointed from Nightmare on Elm Street. Even though with this exhibit, they made it look more like the boiler room than the first exhibit did. And I gotta say, probably the reason why I'm so disappointed with the Nightmare on Elm Street room is probably the same reason why I'm disappointed with Friday the 13th. It's for the simple fact that there's so many movies for that franchise. They did not put enough items into or enough rooms for that specific franchise. And it goes back to what I was saying before in the first podcast when I was talking about this. They could really utilize more of the rooms. Like, they didn't really have to keep it all one floor. I mean, I guess I know why they kept it to one floor is to kind of make it a little bit more easy to navigate through. But at the same time, I feel like you could really utilize a lot of the building. I mean, it could have been a 2-floor type of thing. I gotta admit, like, the warehouse that they use or the place that they use, the location that they use, looked a little bit more bigger on the outside compared to the first location that they used. But it felt a lot more smaller, which also was like very disappointing to me. But going back to Friday the 13th, I was really disappointed once we got to the end of it, which was all one room, which is right next to Beetlejuice. It was just all a camp setting, which was nice. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I really like how they really made the design with the mask and how 3D it looked. I like how they made the water look with like all the fake machete blades sitting on the floor to make a little pond and what have you and give it a little bit of texture. I like the tents. I like the little fake campfire that they had. It was nice. But once when you leave that area, you enter the gift shop. And that's really disappointed to find out after you leave that one area. Because then you're just sitting there like, wow, that was it? This is what I paid $40 for? And by the way, some people are paying like $29 right now because they threw a discount out there. So if they still got the discount going on, and if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, hey, take your chance. I would take that discount too. I mean, if I knew they were going to give out discounts for this exhibit, I would have like jumped on that shit. But you know, I didn't even know they were going to give a discount. But I mean, hey, they're not really promoting it like ahead of time. Like, hey, we're going to throw a discount during this time. But yeah, during the holiday season, or should I say the Halloween season, when it was getting closer to Halloween, because I went maybe in the beginning of October, I want to say, or probably like a week before I went to the Halloween party, I believe. I don't know, I don't remember. But either way, I still went, and I went an earlier time before they threw the discount. Now, if I knew they threw out a discount that was for $29, I would have jumped on that instead of jumping on the one I went to beforehand. But even at $10 off, I still don't feel like it was worth it. I really don't. Because I was so really disappointed from what I saw this time around. And yes, I still like those rooms that they had. Yeah, they set it up differently and everything, but it was definitely more of a letdown than anything else. But I mean, if you guys want to check it out, and if you guys could still get it for $29, I'll advise you guys to do that. But other than that, I mean, if you're going to pay full price, I wouldn't advise you to. I would just look at their Instagram posts and just be like, all right, I seen it. Oh man, but the I Like Scary Movies exhibit, that is going on till November 17th. So if you guys are still trying to catch it, yeah, just go ahead and pay whatever you guys are going to pay and just check it out. But like I said before, I wouldn't pay any more past the $29 discount that they were throwing out. So yeah, that's just my opinion about that. Moving forward though, I have done a 31 days of horror. If you guys did not know, I was doing a 31 days of horror movie watch. I had like a big watch list for every day. I gotta say, probably a little bit more structured than what I did last year, because I don't know if you guys remember, or even if I did talk about it. I did do a horror movie 31 days of horror watch last year, but this is like in the early years before when I'm starting this. I'm still in my infancy. I mean, I think I hit a year already of this. I mean, I don't know. I think one of my episodes might be a year old or what have you. So hooray to that. This year, I kind of made it a little bit more structured, a little bit more easy to follow on. Instead of like sitting there thinking about what I'm going to watch, I actually had movies written down that I am going to watch. Kind of following the Blade Disgusting format of like the themes and what have you. I wrote my own movies that I wanted to watch or kind of wanted to check out. And yeah, I mean, I just pretty much made a list and just followed it. So with that being said, I'm going to just give you guys my thoughts and opinions about what happened with me during my watch of the 31 days. Now, I might have talked about my first week, which was very easy. I mean, it was only the first week, so that was like a cakewalk almost. I gotta say, by like the second and third week, you guys, it really started getting a lot more harder, so to speak. And, for me, I'm not watching any of these movies really during the daytime. It's more of a nighttime thing, because who watches horror movies in the daytime? Especially for if you have like a theme watch. It's kind of better to watch some of these movies during nighttime than watch it during the day, because, I mean, who gets scared during the daytime? Watching some of these movies were kind of a bit of a challenge sometimes. I mean, there were days I actually completely missed out on the movie. And I mean, it's not that I was purposely trying to miss the movie or anything like that, but it's just other obligations, other things I was doing. Like I mentioned before, I went to the I Like Scary Movies exhibit. So whatever movie I was trying to watch, I probably missed it. But if I missed a movie, I tried to make it up any way possible. So does that count for 31 days? I mean, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I mean, at this point, it's like I'm watching 31 films in how many whatever days possible. But also, there were films that I could not absolutely watch for one reason or the other. So I had to replace that film with something else. And it's crazy. I mean, sad to say, I don't know what's going on with Amazon's algorithms or with some of the videos that they got in their platform, but there were movies that just did not play at all. For example, like Suspiria. Suspiria is one of their releases that they got control of, and during half of the film, I couldn't watch it anymore. Like, it basically just stopped playing, period, in the middle of me watching it. Now, I don't get why that happened, but that's exactly what happened. And same thing with Halloween, which was definitely the Halloween movie of the day, if you guys didn't figure that one out. That movie didn't play at all also, and I was literally kind of frustrated with that. I was like, wow, I waited 31 days or 30 days to watch Halloween on Halloween Day, and you're telling me this movie does not work at all for you guys' platform. This is ridiculous. Very ridiculous. I mean, it really made me upset that I could not watch that movie. So I had to switch to something else. So, yeah, I mean, that was definitely kind of aggravating in a way. Yeah, it was definitely aggravating. And so it was definitely aggravating in every way possible. Just because I could not watch this film. So, yeah, Amazon, get your shit together. That's all I gotta say about that. But let's talk about some movies that were good and some movies that were bad. So, starting off with the good ones. I mean, I'm not gonna go down the line. I'm gonna just go to ones that I really found were good, were surprisingly good, that I didn't think were gonna be good or know that they were gonna be good. First of all, Tucker and Dale versus Evil was actually a really good film. I am actually really surprised that they took the whole cabin in the woods type slasher horror and flipped it a bit, where you have the ignorant college students who see Tucker and Dale as just these evil guys when all they're trying to do is just hang out in a cabin and go fishing. That's it. And enjoy their vacation. I mean, I didn't think like they were gonna do anything exciting. I mean, I only put this on my list because it was a comedy horror, and I heard someone who actually watched this film said it was like a bad movie or that it was dumb. Now, it wasn't really that funny per se, but I do like the story to this movie. You know, and it's a bit of a change of pace because you get to see through the eyes of people who you think are killers, but they're not really killers. And it turns out the real people who are the killers are the people who are sitting there being afraid and judgmental of these people. It was definitely a really good twist to those kind of stories. And yes, there is a bit of a love story in it, which I really did not care too much about, but it actually was more fitting in the movie the more you watch it. So yeah, I mean, Tucker and Dale versus Evil was definitely a worthwhile watch. Another movie that was worthwhile to watch was The Heretics. The Heretics was a very good movie to watch, which is a possession movie. Yeah, The Heretics is a possession movie. Yeah, The Heretics was definitely a really good movie because it was just a very unknowing horror to me, and just for the simple fact, like, you could not see what was coming next from it. I mean, I did kind of figure out that the girl, I forget the characters' names in the movie, but that the girl who is the girlfriend of the other girl, I know, it's so dumb, but they're like in this meeting and whatever, but I kind of figured that the girl whose girlfriend was missing, she had something to do with it. But what I didn't figure out, and this is a spoiler, by the way, was that she was brother and sisters with the guy who actually kidnapped the girl, who actually went through that traumatizing experience the first time of getting kidnapped and being used for a devil sacrifice or a cult sacrifice or a devil sacrifice for a cult. I don't know how you should word it or how you guys word it, but yeah, just for the simple fact that the brother kind of knew that she was actually under the demon possession of becoming this devil because of the whole cult performance and what have you that his sister is involved in. It was fucking crazy. I mean, as much as I saw it, and you know, I kind of saw ahead of it a bit. I mean, it is a bit predictable, but the ending was not. I'm definitely really saying like the ending was not what I was expecting. Another movie that I really thought that was really just a surprise to me, Life After Beth. And this is another comedy movie that I just thought was going to be dumb. It was going to be dull and what have you. But it was actually a really surprisingly good film. Just because it had a really good story, a really good, I guess, message about moving on from like someone who either dies or break up with you. I mean, it's definitely a good breakup movie. I gotta say, if you're going through a breakup. And I mean, the only reason why I said breakup, because I mean, sometimes we always kind of consider our exes dead. I know I'm considering like some of my exes dead to me, the ones that I don't like. So yeah, and if they're not dead, they should be. I'm kidding, you guys. Yeah, it was definitely a good story about how like moving on is the best thing to do. Don't get caught up in the past. Don't get stuck on the past, because the more you get stuck in the past, the worse things become for you, you know? And maybe not so much as in a zombie apocalypse type thing, but it does become bad. Now, I gotta say also, Aubrey Plaza was in this movie. And I mean, if you guys didn't know, or if I have mentioned it before, Aubrey Plaza is hot as fuck. I'm just saying. And just seeing her in this film, where she was just a little bit more sexier than usual. I mean, she was kind of like a quirky sexy in this film, but she was a little bit more sexy in this film than I've seen her in other previous works. I mean, she was pretty much, hot in Child's Play, but she wasn't like this hot like in this film. But it was kind of weird also, because she was also living with her parents, and she had John C. Reilly as her dad and Molly Shannon as her mom, which was kind of funny to see. But I think this movie was old, so yeah, I mean, by then, I mean, she looked like she was playing like a 20-something-year-old, but I'm pretty sure in real life she was like 30-something. But either way, it doesn't take away the fact that she was definitely hot in this film. It was definitely a really good movie. I advise you guys to check it out if you guys got Netflix. And the last one that I really thought was good, but actually it shouldn't be no surprise, is definitely The Orphanage. And I mean, I don't really need to go into much detail because it is a Guillermo del Toro movie. And just like the whole writing aspects, I mean, it wasn't super horrific or, scary like other films in the horror genre, but this was a bit of a more of a fantasy mystery type film to figure out like a murder or something like that. And it had an interesting storyline. It did have an interesting message behind it about just like the past and how it could come back and what have you. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have Hulu, definitely check it out. All right, now let's talk about some duds in the whole movie watching that I was in. So a couple of movies that I didn't like. One, Poltergeist 2. What in the fuck was that? What the fuck did I just watch? I mean, I like Poltergeist 1. I still think it was a little bit more inappropriate for a movie that was rated PG. But Poltergeist 2? If I thought Poltergeist 1 was a little bit inappropriate, Poltergeist 2 definitely needed to be rated R rating over that PG-13 rating that it got, considering it's almost rape scene in that film. But also just the whole story was just confusing. What the fuck was going on? I mean, honestly, I get that the ghost from their old house was coming back and there was no way to get away from them because the ghost follows, like it follows and shit like that. But what the fuck did I really just watch? I know I keep saying that, but I'm just like, what the fuck did I really just watch from this movie? I didn't like it at all. It was horrible. It was definitely not worth any of my time of watching it. I wish that I spent my time actually watching something else. But I put it on my list because it's a sequel. But as we all know, according to Randy and Scream 2, sequels suck. And this is one of them that sucked. Another movie that was very disappointing. Oh my ghost. Oh my god, what the fuck did I watch? Now, honestly speaking, I'm not dissing it because it is an LGBTQ movie. Majority of the characters in that movie are either transsexual or cross-dressers. I believe a lot of them were cross-dressers. I don't think anyone was transsexual. But yeah, it was a main cast of cross-dressers. And it was a very goofy storyline. And I mean, again, it was a comedy movie. I get that. I'm not bothered by any of that at all. What I am bothered by is just the whole confusing storyline. What the fuck was going on in that movie? I mean, honestly speaking, I think that film could have been shortened to maybe a good, I want to say 40, 50 minutes, and you would have gotten the story down packed, tightened up, and everything. But yeah, it was definitely a confusing storyline that I couldn't follow. There was too many inside jokes that I did not understand, that probably people from that culture will understand better than I would, because I believe that is a Taiwanese film. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of inside jokes. It was a lot of fart jokes also that I just felt that were just very childish and silly and goofy, and it just wasn't even funny at all. It was more gross than anything. I mean, maybe because I'm growing past the Adam Sandler movies and what have you. So, yeah, I'm just looking for something that's actually tightly written and just good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, like, goofy films. I mean, I still like scary movies, which has a lot of fart jokes and stuff like that, kind of like Adam Sandler. But as far as this one, I was not really a fan of. I thought it could have been a lot better than what it was. And yeah, they just have the nerve to have like about 2 more movies of that shit. Last film that I want to talk about that's terrible is definitely Don't Knock Twice. That one was god awful, by the way. And when I say god awful, I mean it was awful beyond everything. Confusing story, confusing dialogue. A lot of the story really could have been shortened into an hour. There could have been a lot more context within the characters and what they were about and what kind of problems they were having. Like the character Chloe, who was the daughter of this other character named Jess, who gave her daughter up for adoption, I guess. I mean, they didn't really specify if she gave her up for adoption or not, but it sounded like she gave her up for adoption. She gave her up for adoption because she was addicted to drugs and alcohol. Now, honestly speaking, this story could have been a lot more polarizing and more impactful if they really stuck more into the alcohol and drugs part of the story. They also could have stuck more closely to the fact that the girl Chloe and her friend Danny and Michael, well, actually just Chloe and Danny, falsely accused Michael for, well, not accused Michael, but accused who was it? It was the witch or some bitch that was in the film. They falsely accused her for murdering a kid. Now, we find out at the end that it wasn't even like the detective or the woman that gets blamed, but this friend that Jess is sculpting together, she is the evil who actually killed Michael and a whole bunch of other kids. Now, me personally, I just thought this whole movie was just confusing. It was a mess. Too much story going on. They could have dumbed it down a bit. But it's just one of those possession stories that were not good. Not good at all. Not good, not scary. It wasn't even worth watching. I mean, I don't even know why I even put that on my list. I mean, I haven't heard anybody talking about it or anything like that, but I had it on my list. I watched it. It was terrible. Now we move on. Oh, man. But either way, I gotta say the 31 Days of Horror, you guys, was definitely a lot of work. I am definitely gonna do one next year. Hopefully, if I'm still energetic, I will do one for you guys. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do because I notice I am disappearing a lot. So yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm getting paid for this. I want to do once a week, but sometimes once a week is definitely an issue when there's a lot of things that go on in my life also. I mean, like I said, a day job, and we all have day jobs, so we know how the day job could kind of get in the way. So I'm just trying to give you guys as much content as possible. So probably like around maybe sometime next year or 2020, because it's like right around the corner. Maybe I'll start posting like 2 times a month. And if that works for me, I mean, hey, you guys will get episodes 2 times out of the month. Maybe if I get my schedule right, maybe you guys will get episodes once a week, but who knows? But just be on the lookout, you guys. Keep them notifications on. Because like I said before, I mean, I'm doing this as a hobby. This is my opinions. This is for fun. If you guys like my opinions, subscribe to me, and keep your boy going. Give me likes and everything. But anyway, I'm going to take a break because my nose is killing me. It is definitely fall season and sick season, especially with winter coming up. But either way, I'm going to take a break and blow my nose and all that other types of shit, that nasty shit that I don't want to get on the microphone. And like you shouldn't say and scream, I'll be right back.
What's your favorite scary movie?
As you guys know, each month Hulu is running their Into the Dark series, which is a holiday theme series where they show a movie each month related to whatever holiday is in the month. So like in October you have Halloween, December you have Christmas. So last season, which is their first season, which they started in Halloween in October, they started off with their Halloween movie called The Body. And from then they just been releasing different movies after that. I am not going to talk about their last film, which was Pure, but all I got to say was that movie was pure shit. I'm sorry, but I mean, we've went through this before. We've went through the whole toxic masculinity stories before. But there seems to be a recurring theme, apparently, for the Into the Dark series to talk about. And I get it. I mean, toxic masculinity seems to be the hot button topic. But I'm tired of hearing about how males are very bad or toxic to women. You get me? Because not all males are toxic. And to me, honestly, just like how there's a lot of toxic males out there, there are toxic females. I mean, I dealt with a toxic female not too long ago. I'm just being honest. So, why is there not enough about that? But I mean, hey, sure, whatever. I mean, I guess we've been degrading women long enough. I guess it's our turn to take the degrading. But moving forward, I mean, I gotta say, with Pure, like I mentioned before, it's just pure shit. And where it lands in as far as the rankings for me, I mean, it should have been dead last. When I was looking at Blade Disgusting's rankings for each film, they actually had this film dead last, but I guess I was the only one that was giving it a little bit of leeway because no movie got worse than Flesh and Blood. Honestly, I felt Flesh and Blood was definitely pure shit than Pure. But with Pure, I ranked it at, let's see, let's see, 12, 11, 12, 11. I ranked it at 10. So it was 10 in the rankings, where Flesh and Blood was last. School Spirit came up next. Pure, New Year, New You, I'm Just Fucking With You comes in after that. They Come Knocking, Culture Shock, which honestly speaking, I mean, re-looking at it now, I feel like Culture Shock should have been number 1 out of all these films, because it was definitely marked first the first time I ranked it. But again, there are a bit of blunders that happen in the movie which I am just not in agreement with, and there are some things that I'm just like, why is this happening? So I mean, that's maybe me just like not really riding the coattails of this film. But moving on, we have All That We Destroy coming up after that. Down, Treehouse, Puka, and The Body at number 1. Which honestly, Puka should be probably number 1 over The Body. But I mean, that's just me and my rankings and how I write them down, you know. But now we are in a new season of the Into the Dark series, and they came back with a new one. Yes, and they are going to keep releasing them, which I believe until 2021 is what I've read from the article. So this should definitely be exciting for everyone who actually like watching these movies, you know, and actually get a chance to see what they do. Now, with that being said, we are going to talk about Uncanny Annie, which is the first film released for the Into the Dark series. And we're probably going to compare and contrast it to this month's film, which is Pilgrim, which also came out not too long ago. So yeah, I mean, this is the first for you guys, because I'm usually late with this kind of stuff. Either way, I'm kind of late anyway, so don't judge me. But anyway, moving forward, Uncanny Annie is the Halloween movie that was released for October. In this film, you have these characters who are spending a Halloween game night together because they are celebrating the death of their friend who died from drowning. So in the episode, you have these different characters. You have Wendy, who is played by Adelaide Kane, and she's pretty much the main, I guess, character in the story. Well, there's a lot of main characters in this story, I should say. So you have Wendy, Eve, Grace, Craig, who had a relationship with Eve. You have Michael, who is in a relationship with Wendy. You got Peter, who's the friend. And I don't think there was anyone else. Sorry, I'm looking up the characters right now. So yeah, you have those characters. Let's talk about story first, since we're going to talk about my ranking system. Now, the story, I really felt the story was definitely very predictable, and it was mundane because it's definitely a predictable story about why the friend got killed. And that was probably like the one thing that was very, I guess, boring to me. The way you kind of like describe this movie, well, the way I describe this movie, if you guys are interested in watching it, if you haven't seen it, it's sort of like this whole Jumanji horror nightmare gone wrong. So basically, if Jumanji was a horror movie, you know, like it's a game about life and death that they're playing called Uncanny Annie or Annie or some shit like that. I don't think it was called Uncanny Annie, the game, but it was definitely called Annie. So what happens with the game is that you have to spell out Annie, but the way you spell out Annie is that you have to pass with the cards that are being given to you in the game. So say like, I guess in a way it's kind of like Sorry, where you pull a card and you see what your next move is going to be. That's what the game Uncanny Annie is like. So with the game, it actually random questions, but the thing is you can't pass any of the cards. So say like if you pass the main card and you don't do it, or you fail whatever you're doing your objective on, you get a mischief card. And the mischief card is way worse than what your objective card was going to be. Now the thing is, with the cast of friends in this movie, they end up finding out that this game is a little bit more insidious than what they initially thought it was at first. They thought they were playing a harmless game, but then they found out that they're actually inside the box of the game, the black box that's in the game. And in order to get out of this game, they have to pass this game within an hour, because Annie is keeping time. So if Annie keeping time, that means if you don't pass this shit, you're fucked. You're definitely fucked. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely, that's an interesting concept that I did really like about this movie, because it's a little bit more unorthodox than most other films I deal with games and what have you, like, I don't know, like Die or Saw or any other film like that, maybe Escape Room. You know, and they really do take the whole Jumanji level to a whole nother level, you know, where the stakes is raised a little bit higher than it would have been in Jumanji, you know. Again, with the whole predictability, which the game ends up tying into the personal lives of the characters, we end up finding out that Eve, who is Wendy's best friend, she ended up hooking up with Michael during the time when their friend actually died, which is really the reason why he died and drowned in a puddle in the first place. And I believe the character's name is Tony, by the way. So yeah, Tony ended up drowning in a little shallow water in a pothole because he was too drunk, and he was busy fighting Michael, who was hooking up with Eve, which Eve was actually in a relationship with Craig. Now this is sounding very Melrose Place, if any of you guys know about Melrose Place. But if you guys don't know Melrose Place, I mean, let's say the Degrassi. I mean, and I really can't get any younger with the shows from there, because that's the closest I could think of as the most dramatic show where people are like sharing each other, which is crazy. So yeah, Michael is really the cause of like why Tony died, and pretty much the game is really taunting them about that night. Now, what really ends up happening is that because they are not really facing off with what they're doing or what happened, or being truthful about what happened because they're trying to cover it up, Annie is really pushing on. So, of course, we could see that as like the reason why Annie is really like trying to take everyone out of there and trying to kill them. You know, she's trying to see if their friendship is stronger than the secrets that they're keeping from each other. But the thing that really is a bother to me about this whole film is, how do you really know that you really pass your objective? Because there's some objectives that, well, of course, Wendy lied to, and she wasn't being truthful fully, which she knew that they had to pull another card in order to get to end the game. So, yeah, my problem was, how do they really know if they pass their objective or not? Because some people were lying. And yeah, honestly, like with the cards, you pull the cards. And that's probably something that was really like off about the film. Because eventually Michael, he tried to pull another card because he got the same card about the questions about like what he has done and what have you, and he didn't want to be truthful about it. But it's like, why did Annie let Wendy, well, not Wendy, why did Annie let Eve, and I've probably been saying Wendy for a minute, you guys, and I'm just realizing that, but Eve is the one that was fucking with Michael, and they were cheating behind Wendy's back. Why did Annie let Eve get away with lying if they really didn't really pass that round at all? So I don't know. It's a bit confusing to me. Next thing I want to talk about is the characters and acting. I didn't really care for the acting all that much, or the characters. I mean, I really did not like majority of the characters in this film. I mean, they weren't really likable at all. I mean, Wendy, she was alright. I mean, she was okay. But I really didn't care for Michael. He was a bit of a douchebag. I mean, but that's how he was written. I mean, he was supposed to be a douchebag. I didn't really care for Craig all that much. Just for the simple fact he was sitting there simping over this girl that cheated on him. And he was sitting there like, he still loved her and this, that, and the other. But it was like, dude, she basically cheated on you with your friend. And they were just fucking like, they just didn't care at all. So yeah, the acting, I swear, it feels like it was a bit stale most of the time. I didn't feel anything for the characters, especially when they got killed off the movie. I didn't really feel their emotions that much. Maybe only when Grace, she died. You know, I was feeling her emotions and what have you. Michael, he showed a bit of emotions, even though he was the douchebag. I mean, he actually have you felt something from that film. But all the other characters, I mean, they just didn't really give you much of an emotional stake to them. And when they got killed, it was just like, well, they're gone. So yeah, I mean, when I was grading this, and if you guys didn't know, I grade these things out of 5. I really had to give the acting and the characters, a 1.5 out of this. I mean, the only thing that was really good about the characters was the prankster. That was a sick looking motherfucker. Oh my god, the prankster was one motherfucker. I could not really just be like, I couldn't get enough of him. I really couldn't get enough of him on the film. And I really felt like they should have put more of him in the film than anything, because all the other characters were just very stale and just like really not that good. And I really didn't care for them at all. But the prankster, he was definitely the guy. He was the guy that they should have kept going with. All right, well, now let's talk about cinematography. Now, there's not much I could say about the cinematography if you guys aren't really keen to like movie talk, you know. When I'm grading cinematography, I'm looking at how everything comes together as far as like sounds, lighting, camera angles, and just everything that comes together. I mean, I know acting and story writing is part of cinematography also, but at the same time, I'm kind of like grading those separately from everything else as for what you see and hear visually, just because I just feel like that needs to be in its own separate category. But definitely, I did not care for any of the music. Well, actually, no, let me take that back. I actually did care for the music. The music was very creepy, with the little children and the playful sounds that they were making. Definitely had its creepy appeal. But it kind of elicited not so much of a scary tone to it. What I didn't like was Annie's crunching sound whenever she moved or turned her head or something. I mean, honestly speaking, I really didn't like Annie at all. I did not give a fuck about Annie. I hope that Annie died. She was like a very creepy little kid. That was literally what it was. That was just about it. So I really didn't care for Annie at all, and I didn't care for the crunching sound. I don't know who thought that would be very dope to add that in the film with her, but it was not. I was like, why are they doing this? This is pure shit. But yeah, I mean, for the cinematography, I mean, because of everything else, like the creepy music of the kids playing and what have you, tolerable lighting and filtering that was happening with the film, didn't really add much to the drama, but it did look decent. Sometimes there was some hard to see scenes that were just a little bit too dark, and I don't know why they just let the movie pass on like that. That didn't make any sense to me. They did have very good visual effects, which was actually really the best thing out of the film also, was the visual effects that they put in this film. I think they put a lot of budget into that one, especially dealing with like the shrouded ghost men who were killing everybody. They were definitely visually, I guess, put together good and what have you. Again, the prankster and his invisibility, that was pretty good also that they did. Even though we all know that's just pure acting on the actor's part of just acting like, the prankster is there when he's really not. Yeah, but with that, I had to give the cinematography part a 3 because it was just very tolerable. But again, there was parts that I just did not care for at all. Once again, Annie's crunching sounds and what have you, and the sound effects, they really didn't build no tension at all for me. I didn't really care for it at all. Last thing but not least is definitely the gore and terror. And once again, I mean, if the music is not terrifying me, I don't see how the gore or anything else happening in this film will be that terrifying. It was definitely not terrifying at all. But what I did like is that this movie was definitely very gory. I did not think this movie would be that gory at all. And I'm talking about as far as like when the prankster killed Grace and he slit her throat with his fingernails. That was really fucked up because I really did like Grace. I did not want to see her go away in that film at all because she was actually the smartest one in that group along with Peter. Those probably two characters that, well, actually I didn't give a fuck that Peter died. I just didn't want to see Grace die. But yeah, just to see her die. Craig's death was a little bit fucked up also. When he got his head, getting well, not really severed, but he took a pickaxe to the head, which pretty much killed him. I mean, he was pretty much stuck to the door and everything. And yeah, I mean, it was very gory in every way possible. I mean, I didn't really see him getting killed like that, but he fucked up because he should have made it to home base when they were like pretending to be in tag and whatever. But other than that, I mean, those were probably maybe like the most goriest scenes. I mean, Wendy, she gets her head snapped by Annie in a very comedic manner, but wasn't really that funny to me at all, but whatever. But all in all, I mean, this movie, it ends with a 2.25 out of 5 for me, which is actually the first movie for the Into the Dark series where they're starting a new season. So by default, it's sitting at first place. But let's talk about Pilgrim when we come back.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
Now, here's my thoughts. How do you go from one piece of shit movie to an absolute fireball of a movie? And I mean, this movie was flames. And honestly speaking, I thought this one was going to be shit too, compared to their last year horror of Flesh and Blood, which was definitely nowhere near a Thanksgiving movie in my opinion. But this one really started, like, I feel like the Into the Dark series is back after a couple of blunders. Like I said, I mean, we had Pure, which was pure shit. And then we were given Uncanny Annie, which was some uncanny mess. I'm just saying. That wordplay, though. Oh, man, but now we're moving on to something a little bit better. and this is kind of foreshadowing what my thoughts are about this film. But this movie is definitely worth the watch. And this one is called Pilgrim. And this one is written by Marcus Dustin, who is a writer for the Saw movies. He was writing for Saw 4 to 3D. And by my recollection, those were some certified good movies besides 3D, which was pure shit. And Saw 6 wasn't good, but it was decent. I mean, in my opinion, Saw stopped being good maybe up to like Saw 5. And Saw 5 was also not its best also. But moving forward, this movie was written and directed by Marcus Dustin, who was involved with the Saw movies. He also had a co-writer, which is Noah Feinberg, which is also what this movie is actually based on. It's actually based on Noah's experience, real life experience, I should say, with a real pilgrim that came home to his family, which is kind of foreshadowing about what this movie is about. So kind of like a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner type movie. Pilgrim is about this family who are not together, which is played by Kurt Smith, who plays Shane the father, Rain Edwards, who plays Cody, Peter Giles, who plays Ethan the Pilgrim, Courtney Hangiller, who plays Anna. I know I butchered that last name in so many ways possible. And Antonio Raul Corbo as Tate, who plays the younger son. Now, what happens is that because Cody, whose dad was married to her mom actually split from her dad on Thanksgiving Day. One way to kind of fuck up a kid's experience with winning Thanksgiving. I mean, can you imagine your parents or something horrific happening on Thanksgiving Day? Now you're given the reminder of every year when Thanksgiving comes, this is what happened. On this day, this is the day my parents died, or this is the day my parents split, or this is the day my ain't piece of shit boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me. Just imagine just like that happening. So her parents split on Thanksgiving, and now every Thanksgiving with her new family, she's pretty much reminded. So every year she's kind of like on the bad end of like, well, fuck this family, fuck everything, because this is the day my mom left. Whatever. So the mom, Anna, or should I say the stepmom, Anna, is trying to find a way to bring the family together because she knows that everybody is kind of like in their own little world, and so is she, always on social media and being consumed by that bullshit. But she tries to find a way to kind of bring her family together, and the way she kind of finds a way to bring them together, she sees on Facebook that there's this pilgrim experience where they're going to experience their Thanksgiving holiday as like the first Thanksgiving. Now, Cody, being that she is not one to really be into like this whole Thanksgiving shit because of the whole thing that happened between her and her dad, she's already cynical to the point of it. And this is probably why I like that character, which I gotta say, for characters, I rated the whole acting and characters a 3.5. It's because the acting is very good, by the way. I mean, it's nothing really wrong with the acting. There's a few blunders here and there where you just feel like, okay, that was a bit of a goof, but okay, don't really care. Is that Cody was very cynical. Now, I know some people might not like Cody just because of the way she was very cynical, and she was just very bullheaded and stubborn to her parents and everything that was going on around her. But she had every right to. And I really did like the fact that she was more cynical to the point of like, okay, why are we doing this? Because the character Ethan, who is the pilgrim, came into the house, and he's pretty much apparently spending like the coming days with the family. And during this time that he's hanging out with this family, he's slowly but surely just changing everything and trying to find a way to actually murder this family to get them to do one thing was appreciate everything that they have around them for what they are given, as far as like a house, shelter, and food. And that was one thing that was really good about this movie, was definitely the story. Because the story just was all about the morals of like appreciating what you have in life. And I know with a lot of us, we could be very ungrateful. I know I can be very ungrateful sometimes about everything that I have in life. Because I am probably worried about things that I do not have. Because, that's hot wired in us. That's what happens when we're humans. Sometimes we are not appreciative for the things that we do have. Even sometimes, even though we have very little, we should be appreciative for the fact that we are still living and breathing. And that's a gift within itself, So yeah, I do like the message that was in this film about just appreciating life, showing gratitude, and just for the simple fact that family does mean more than anything. And that was like something that really some of the characters didn't really realize. But excluding Tate, because Tate is just a kid. But that family is very important. And sometimes a lot of us, we do forget that. And like I mentioned before, I'm speaking for myself sometimes, is that I do tend to forget family is important, maybe sometimes I prioritize things that shouldn't be prioritized over family. And I know I'm not the only one that has done that. So I do like the fact that this film really goes into the depths of that kind of psychology. I can't believe I struggled with that. This is the first time I'm getting what? I'm stuttering or getting words stumped or whatever. Or having brain farts. I'm definitely having a brain fart, but this is what happens when you're talking for like almost an hour and everything. But yeah, I do like the story about that. The story does get a bit interesting as we keep going throughout the story about us slowly and surely finding out what these pilgrims who are invading Cody's house and her boyfriend Finn's house also, who ends up getting killed, him and his mom, from the pilgrim that Anna ends up like just forcing upon her friend. And I guess her friend, she was going through like a bender herself. She was definitely a drug addict, alcoholic who is in recovery. Well, actually, she wasn't a drug addict, alcoholic. She was just giving up cigarettes. And I guess like giving up tobacco, that could be a bitch, trying to get through that whole ordeal and trying to like live a life without having tobacco. That could definitely be a pain. But I guess I'm rambling at this moment. Moving on to what was also, I guess, what I don't like about this movie was definitely, this movie is good. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely really good. The acting was really good. Definitely the characters, I gotta say, it could go both ways. Either you like them or you hate them. There's characters that I did like. I did like Cody, just because of how cynical she was. I do like the character Ethan. That guy was fucking insane. To find out that this pilgrim was a Charlie Manson. And that's the thing you gotta think of. It was like this. The pilgrims were definitely a cult. And not as far as like a satanic cult, but a cult that was on a murder spree. So they were a murdering cult. And Ethan, who was the head pilgrim, followed up by his ruthless bitch patient. That bitch was ruthless, I gotta say. When she got stabbed in the head and she took the knife out of her head and she was just like, I'm good. I was like, God damn, this bitch is tough. That just made me go, I do not want to fuck with this chick in a dark alley anywhere. This bitch is ruthless. But definitely Ethan, he was definitely Charlie Manson in every way possible, every way, shape, way impossible. Because all he did was manipulate everyone around him to do killings that he never really did. He didn't really kill anybody. He tortured some people. But if you notice in the movie, he did not really kill anybody. Like, it was Patience who was running around like one of Charlie Manson's girls, and she did most of the killings. It was crazy. But moving forward, going back to what I was mentioning about the story is definitely a very interesting dynamic, especially the tension between Cody and Ethan. You get a lot of back and forth about how he's trying to tell her to be appreciative and how he appreciates their family and whatever. And she's just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Go fuck yourself. Oh, man. But what was very, very interesting, which you kind of figure out what Ethan's plot was when he was with Tate. And when he was with Tate, he was giving him a lesson about life and death and appreciation for life. Well, actually more of an appreciation for what he has. And he did it so with the story of two birds where like a bird had a dead mouse and the crow wanted to eat the mouse. But I don't know, I forgot how the story went. It was very interesting, but the point of the story was that the crow ended up with nothing and that he should have been appreciative for everything that he had already. But because he wanted more, his greed is what led to his demise or some shit like that. But either way, because Tate knew the story and figured out the story, you could hear what Ethan's plot was. He spoke to his God and said, you see, I didn't have to take everything away from this one. And when I rewatched this movie, I was like, hold up. He actually laid out what he was actually going to do all this whole time. That's fucking crazy. I mean, it was insane to hear that. But it was definitely interesting to see how everything unfolded, especially when the Pilgrims actually took hostage of the parents. Now, here's the thing. When I first watched this movie, I was like, how the fuck are the Pilgrims taking these people outside, holding them hostage, and whipping them, and no one's doing shit about it? Then it occurred to me that the neighbors really do hate this family, and we all know that they hate them at the beginning of this film. Right when Anna is having her little gathering with her neighbors, it's a HOA meeting, which I guess is like a neighborhood watch or some shit like that. I don't know. Somebody put in the comments what kind of meeting that is, because I never heard of that shit before, or even attend one. But yeah, during this meeting, Cody is in the kitchen because she knocked over like a dish or whatever, and while she's in there, a couple of the neighbor women, I should say, are talking shit about Anna, and you get the hint that these people really don't like this family at all. I mean, it was definitely clear as day that they just did not give a shit about them. So when this family is getting, brutally tortured and fucked with in the outside where everybody could hear them, the neighbors are just probably like, fuck them. They're just doing their stupid reenactment, which is all that anybody is looking at this point, is that what they see is just a reenactment. They don't see anything happening in a life or death situation. But in the first, I would have to say in the first 50 minutes of this film, it definitely is carried on by a lot of good dynamics and story building, but in the last 20 plus minutes of it, it definitely gets carried away and situations happen so just that the story could progress. So say the whole Cody coming back home after she goes to Finn's house to discover his dead body. My thought was like, why didn't she just go to the police? I mean, that was my first thoughts when she was going back home. It's like, why didn't she go to the police and tell them what's happening? And, you know, just tell them like, hey, I got pilgrims at the house and I'm pretty sure they're the ones that are behind this whole thing. But instead, she just goes back home and now she's in this situation where she's caught up with everyone else. Another thing, Ethan lets Cody live. And that to me is just ridiculous to me because, I mean, they were pretty much ruthless with, like, Finn's family, you know, and just killing them right then and there. But then again, I mean, it's Patience that's doing the killing, and she has no type of patience for when she's killing anybody. So, yeah, with her, she just took out anybody she can right then and there. But with Ethan, I mean, I guess he likes to take his time a bit and just enjoy and torture people because he wanted to have a Thanksgiving feast. But the thing is that he let Cody live after he was drowned in her bed in the pool, or actually had people drowned in her because, again, Ethan is not the one who's doing the killings. He's not getting his hands dirty. He has people that get their hands dirty for him. Yeah, so they pretty much dip her in a pool. And it's like this whole, I guess, witch hunt type makeshift chair where it's like a lever, whatever, you know, and they're dipping her in the pool and what have you, and they're pretty much drowning her in shit because she's tied to the chair. After torturing her for a bit, I mean, they pretty much let her live, and now they're sitting in the Thanksgiving table having a feast, and what ends up happening is that, well, they're not having a feast, they are handling the food. So what ends up happening is that I believe Cody, she ends up taking the Jerusalem cherry and she puts it in the berries. And by the way, we learned that in the movie early on that the Jerusalem cherry is very poisonous. Now, it's interesting that how she drops it in there. We don't really get to see her drop it in there at first, which I felt like is what the movie should have done, because there was a lot of scenes sometimes that was like kind of hard to see or hard to tell. And especially this scene, how they do like this whole split screen situation. I mean, I'm not against the whole split screen usage of the story, but it was kind of hard to tell and confusing, and it just didn't make any sense to me how she managed to drop the Jerusalem cherry into the little berry pot without anybody noticing. But I mean, that's something they really could have showed instead of giving us a flashback on. But mentioning that kind of brings me now to like the cinematography, which I gave a 4 out of 5. And the reason why it was a 4 is because of the fishbowl use. They really did use like a lot of fishbowl lens shots to kind of like give it more of an enclosing look. And I really did like how they gave it that look and everything, because they gave the illusion of everything just being small around them, or how everything was kind of flat in a surface. And it was definitely like the most intriguing look. I gotta say, like, maybe compared to like Puka, which is another intriguingly shot movie from the Into the Dark series, how they use a lot of lighting to kind of contrast like good and evil. They use a lot of the fishbowl lens to kind of convey smallness and kind of like a suffocating space in a way. You know, especially when it came down to when the Pilgrims kind of cornered Shane and Anna when they first captured them. You know, and they use that fishbowl lens to kind of like give them that enclosing look as if everything is small around them. You know, it was definitely a well shot film. I mean, I really do like how well shot it was. Not only that, I mean, they had some gospel music during the feast where all the pilgrims ended up dying because of the Jerusalem cherry being put in the berries, and everybody had a berry. a berry cranberry sauce pudding. And yeah, I mean, they were eating the cranberry sauce with the Jerusalem cherries in there, and that pretty much caused them to die. Yeah, but I have never heard a gospel song sounding very menacing. And the only reason why I say that it sounded menacing is because during their feast, you could see all the pilgrims just stuffing their faces, and they just looked very creepy when they were doing it too. Like, they were stuffing their faces, they were kind of mimicking Anna and Cody just in the worst ways possible. You know, this is when they find out that at the dinner table, the dad, Shane, he got his head severed by Patience, but they didn't know Patience did it. But they do find out that the dad got his head severed, which was done by Patience, and found out that he's dead. And it's funny that the reaction that Tate gives also when he finds out that his dad is dead, he starts throwing up also. I mean, you would expect a grown person to do that, but a little kid doing that, it actually gave a very hilarious moment. And there was lots of hilarious moments in this film, by the way, which I don't want to leave out talking about this film. I mean, to me, I'm just like, wow. I was definitely amazed from just everything around it, as far as the cinematography and also the gore also, which was only just a 3, but I only got a 3 because of all the off-screen kills. And also because Shane's kill also, even though it wasn't off screen, we just had a POV look about how he died. And honestly speaking, I mean, it was really dope to see the first person view, because what they did, they gave him like a very blurry vision. And all you get is a blurry vision of Patience just creeping up and getting ready to cut his head. And as soon as she cut his head, you get this red screen that just blinks and what have you. Now, me personally, I mean, that's a worse way to see gore and terror in a movie. But that was such a fucking good shot cinematography wise. Like, it was really good editing in this movie. I gotta give it credit. I mean, I haven't been amazed by a movie from the Into the Dark series quite like this in a while. I mean, yeah, Culture Shock was definitely interesting also, and it was shot beautifully also. But this movie actually reminds me of why I like watching the Into the Dark series, because, you know, when I first seen Puka, that one was shot very well also, and it was shot very beautifully, especially with all the colors that were just like flashing everywhere in the film, and it just gave it a very beautiful look. So yeah, I mean, with that being said, I mean, in closing, because I don't want to keep on talking any longer than what I am, Pilgrim is actually first on the list, and it actually is good because it stuck to the dynamic for Thanksgiving, like I mentioned before, over its past Thanksgiving tale, which was Flesh and Blood, which I'm glad it did, because Flesh and Blood was definitely pure shit and didn't really have much to do with Thanksgiving, I mean, honestly speaking. But this one actually stuck to the mantra of the Thanksgiving holiday themed movie, which was good. And I like that they actually stuck to that ideology and kind of made it into like a Thanksgiving dinner going to hell. It was definitely really well executed, well paced. Besides the ending, I mean, the ending was well paced, but everything just looked like it happened just based on like carrying the story where something needed to happen in order for the story to keep going. You get me? But all in all, the movie is a 3.63, which makes it first on the list. So yeah, I mean, right now we got Pilgrim at first and Uncanny Annie at second. So we'll see what happens next month when they come out with their Christmas movie, which I can't remember the name for it, but when it comes out, I will be talking about that also on the podcast. So anyway, if you guys can't tell, my voice is getting very tired, but we are going to take another break, which will be the last break, and I am going to go over the outro. where I'm going to talk about you guys' must-watch movie of the week and the meme of the week. All right, so I'll be right back.
Wendy, darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Alright, you guys, we are here at the outro. As you guys know, we always have our meme of the week and must-watch movie of the week. Now, first off, let me go over what I'm about to do this month of November, which I promised to tell you guys. So this month of this November, I was about to say something so stupid, but anyway, well, I was about to word that horribly, but during this month of November, I am going to be watching a bunch of 2019 films that I have not watched at all. 2019 has really just came out with an abundance of horror films. I mean, we have been blessed, you guys, to get a lot of films that is out there for us to watch. And I am planning on watching a bunch of these films right now. I mean, I'm doing that in progress at the moment. Just the other day, I was watching Nightmare Cinema for the first time. And I gotta say, I mean, it's really an interesting film. I mean, it's not like Tales from the Crypts or VHS or anything like that, but it's definitely just like those type of films in its own interesting way and manner. Now, what I'm planning on doing with these 2019 films for you guys is that I am trying to make a list of movies. I'm going to rank the 2019 films that came out. It's mainly going to be based on films that I've actually watched more than just films in general. So I'm not going to be including movies that I have not watched at all. And by the time when I come out with that list, I will let you guys know which movies that I did not watch. So if there's a movie that I leave out that you guys are just like, how could he forget that? Why is that movie not on the list? Don't blame me, it's just because I have not watched that movie at all. Either because I missed it out in theaters, or I'm just not willing to pay for that shit on DVD, or, you know, pay for it on Amazon Prime when it should just be Prime for me. You get me? But moving forward, we're gonna be talking about the memes of the week. And I said memes, which is plural, so which means we got two. I mean, for somebody that's been gone for like literally damn near 3 weeks or what have you, depending on when you guys are listening to this shit, but I'm giving you guys two memes, and just because they're so good, I just couldn't resist adding both of them. So one is with Buffalo Bill. If you guys ever watched the Silence of the Lamb movie, which I have, and this is dealing with the time change, so if you guys haven't known, the time has actually really changed. We went back an hour on Saturday, which means it's going to get a lot darker sooner, like around 4 o'clock or so. Yeah, and what the meme says is, don't forget to tuck your cocks back. I mean, set your clocks back this weekend. Oh man, when I seen this meme, I couldn't help but laugh because I was like, damn, he really did do that in that movie, and it's still very funny to this day. Just to see this movie, not the movie, but to see this meme and to give reference to that movie, you know, and referencing the whole cocks and clocks, you know, in a very symmetric way possible, as like, you know, moving back and all that. I know I kind of struggled through that that last sentence. Yeah, it was definitely like a really interesting meme to read and see. But that's not the only meme that I'm going to put up there for you guys. Another meme, which I couldn't resist but to put, is with Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw series. So you have Leatherface and his brother, and what happens is that his brother comes in talking to Leatherface. He says, you remember that girl that hung out here last year? Car broke down outside. Leatherface says, refresh my memory. His brother says, around 18, blonde, had a real strong scream. That's very funny to me. Leatherface responds, "Not ringing a bell. I'll check my Facebook." And what he does is pull up a book full of faces in a book. Oh man, I mean, if you guys are looking at YouTube, the visual of this meme right now, you guys should be like laughing your socks off about this one. Just because it's so funny that he actually pulled a book of faces and called it a Facebook. Oh man, it's very hilarious. Oh man, as far as the must-watch movie of the week, if you guys have Shudder, you guys should check out the movie The Furies. And what happens in this movie is that a girl named, I can't remember her name for a moment, and that's where I'm getting tongue-tied. Well, not tongue-tied, but a brain fart. But a girl and her friends get caught up in this game dealing with life or death. And what happens is that in this game, only one person can survive in this game to, I guess, win a prize or, I guess, move on to the next round. But it's definitely a very interesting and very gory movie to watch. So if you're into, like, slashers like Saw or slashers like Friday the 13th, Playing with Dolls, Toolbox Murderers, you know, this is definitely a movie to check out because it's definitely gory and it really satiates the gore lovers. I'm trying to look for the word and I'm getting like tongue-tied, well not tongue-tied, but a brain fart again. But it satiates the gore fans' hunger for just seeing blood everywhere in a film. There we go. So yeah, I mean, definitely if you guys got Shudder, which you guys should try and get, I mean, it's very cheap if you guys, you know, want it. If you have Amazon Prime, definitely get it with your Prime, but if not, I mean, it comes with Xbox, it comes on Apple and other devices except for PlayStation. Bastards. Oh man. But other than that, I am signing out. This is Walterdoom with another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. If you guys have Instagram, find me on Instagram at Walterdoom. If you guys got Twitter, it's at Walterdoom1 because some asshole took Walterdoom and I did not want to be the official Walterdoom because, I mean, there's nothing official about me. I'm just a guy on a microphone. I'm just talking to my mic and shit. But other than that, if you guys like this show, leave this a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that bell, do all that shit. You know, Instagram, follow me. Twitter, follow me. I mean, I'm not too active on Twitter, but I try to be. But yeah, definitely follow me. Yeah, but we are signing out for another episode. This is America. Don't let them catch you slipping up. Peace.